I'm sure most of you know this, so I'll do this for like 2 seconds, but basically, long story short, we as an Lit Up Life offered an NFT for one like forever coaching spot with us that you could either buy and use, buy and lease, or buy and resell. So it basically was able to be used for current clients or not current clients, which I want to talk about that in a little bit. But that's a gist. NFT is a non-fungible token. So it's basically like a smart contract. So effectively, Sabrina bought a contract in our business. We did an auction. It was 4 days long, and Sabrina was our auction winner, and she purchased the NFT. It's super cool because, I think obviously I would have been happy no matter how it went, but I think having like one of your longest term, if not your longest term clients do that really means a lot and shows the value. But I also think that it's a good lesson for anybody thinking about how to do this moving forward too, is that like the people that are already in your world and see your value are the best people to have do something like this because of that. One of the like, hi Shantae, one of the things I heard is like almost like making that wrong a little bit and like, oh, like of course it was going to be a client, and then of course they're going to promote you. And it was like, to me, that's like the stupid, sorry, but it's like the stupidest comment ever, because it's like, well, who better to know your value and promote you than someone that's been working with you for over 5 years, right?
But I also just feel like it really could have been anyone.
Sure.
I just think I don't know if I want to give away my secrets or like how I want or like what my strategy was, but like I had a freaking strategy. Like I knew exactly what I was doing. And like, I remember even before the auction started, I was like, this is my game plan. And yeah, like I knew what I was doing. So it could have been anyone's game. I think I had an upper hand, not because I was Lacey's client, but because I had so much experience with crypto. Like that was just something that I really knew a ton about. So but like anyone with Google could have done the same thing, which like we'll talk about exactly what that was. Yeah, so for sure, like I saw the value straight away, but also there are 500 people or whatever on Lacey's waitlist. Like there's a bunch of people who see the value in it. You know what I mean?
Yes, totally. I think that's true. I want to talk about the crypto thing for sure. Yeah. Thank you, Lisa. She says, so curious to hear about your story, Sabs, and your why. I understand, Shantae says, I understand that, but it just makes sense that she would, like, she knows the value more than anyone else. Exactly. Totally. Sure. That's kind of where my head's at. That's such a testament to how great of a coach you are and how much your clients value your work. Thank you. Yeah, totally. I mean, listen, I think that Sabrina's right, but like, also like, she felt this is kind of how you operate anyway, but she felt the excitement to like have a strategy, do the things, come up with the plan, right? So I think it goes both ways, you know what I mean? Where it's like, she just decided she wanted it and she has a way to like get on board and go after it. But also,
ever not gotten something I wanted? I manifested.
Nothing comes to mind. Huh?
I manifested my engagement and yours. So of course I was going to win this.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is me coming to Scotland this year, but like, or last year.
That's okay. I invited myself for Thanksgiving, so I got you back.
Yes. And
I got a little brother out of it.
Though, so exactly. And you've got a baby out of it. So it's fine. Okay. So I think one thing that you just mentioned that I think is important to say is that you did have previous experience with crypto. And I think it's important for us to say that, because I feel like that was like a huge barrier and was super overwhelming to people, especially if they were just starting. And then on top of it, I don't even remember if you paid attention to this part, Sabs, but like we thought there was going to be like a 5 to 7 day window to move money, and it was actually 15.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't realize also that because of that, you'd really have to decide what your
cap was,
your top bid would be, right? And part of me liked that because it kind of put everyone in a position to not like bid from that really like
Yeah.
chaotic,
I would have bid anything.
intense place.
I would have bid
Sounds
anything.
all in. But like, you know
Yeah,
what I mean? It kind of made people be like intentional about being like, this is my max and I'm not going to like get in the moment and go over it. Right.
for sure.
But I think it also like created a huge barrier in a sense because you had to almost decide that max 15 days out before we'd even like finish the education process and everything. So
Yeah.
for you, you didn't have to wait, like you didn't have a waiting period because
Yeah.
you'd already had your wallet for a long time and been using it.
Yeah, I think my limit is like 250,000 a day or something. Like it's just the absolute top of Coinbase. Like they'll let you move anything. What I will say though is I do think in retrospect, like it's almost positive that it worked out this way because more opportunities like this will come in the future. People are learning now. You did let them know a month ahead of time, but as part of my like strategy, I was like researching like auction psychology, and it's like lizard brain. Like people just go, 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 go. Like
Yeah.
I remember with Paul, I was just like telling him, Paul's my husband. I was like buying more, converting more, moving money. Like I was just like, I will spend anything. And it was just because I wanted to win, you know? So like for sure, like I think
auction
it's
psychology.
yeah. Yeah. Just exhibit A. So I think it was a good thing.
I do too. I actually feel like that worked out well, but I do think that it's just helpful to hear that like if this was your first one and it was overwhelming to you, it makes sense. Like you've been probably doing crypto for at least a year at this point.
Yeah.
So I think that's just helpful permission where like obviously as this evolves and as more people in our space do that and all of that kind of stuff, like you will get better if this was just your starting point and it helped you learn or explore or step into that. Like that's amazing. Yes, it was super aligned. Yes. Even though I didn't bid, I was so invested during the time the auction was open and checked all the time. So cool to see the gems. Thank you, Lisa. That's fun. Yeah. I think that was like a part that I thought about is like, would I do 4 days again or not? But I think I would. Like, I think it was interesting to see it play out over that time. I don't necessarily think we needed that much time, but it was kind of cool to just be able to like watch what happened.
It was nice, but I remember when there was maybe 36 hours left or 48 hours, I was like, I wish this would finish already because part of my strategy was like to really wait till the last minute, and we'll kind of get into the specifics of that later. But yeah, I was like, I can't sleep. I need this to finish. Because I'm on the wrong time zone. I'm 5 hours ahead of you. So all the bidding would start at about 9 p.m. Eastern. That's when it would pick up. Like every night after work, people would put in bids. And that was 2 a.m. my time. So I would just be up like watching.
Which is is a funny side note, just because I know this because you told me, but the night of the auction, she drank like a ton of coffee at like whatever 10 p.m. or 11:30 your time to stay up for it, and then you were up for like 24 hours after.
Yeah. Well, the thing is the auction ended at 7 p.m. Eastern, which is midnight my time.
Yeah.
So I had like a blanket over my head. I was like chugging coffee. Paul was like on the couch, like giving me like mindset stuff. He was like, you got this, you can do it. My dog was like running around, just an emotional support animal. So it was like all hands on deck. My clients were messaging me, you've got this. You've got this. Yeah. So it was so good.
I love that too, that it's like you made it like a big fun thing as opposed to just like, you know, oh, I'm gonna like try this thing. Like you like were so fully committed, which I think is such a lesson in like how we get what we want and why you're such a good example of always getting what you want, because you like commit, you had the strategy, the plan, you made it a thing. Like, I think that's just good to see where it's like, okay, if you bid on this just to like dip your toes in the water, like there's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's just good in terms of seeing like, this is how we get what we want, is we're like all the fucking way in. We're not like, oh, I'll put a bid out and then just like hope it happens. We'll see. No big, you know what I mean?
For sure.
So good. Yeah, she was very committed. Okay, so some lessons that I kind of wanted to share, and I would be curious your take on it, Sabs, but something that felt really important to me that I think would just be a good lesson for anybody else that's doing this is to really find that sweet spot in your business model if you're going to do something like this where clients and non-clients can engage in it. Like I actually found that to be really helpful. I feel like if we had done just clients, the whole community wouldn't have had the same like learning or investment, or, you know, so many people told me like, you know, they set up their wallet or they learned so much or whatever, that would have been a miss. And then if we had just done non-clients, I think it would have really taken away from the idea that like the people who are most likely to see the value in it are the people who have received that service. And to me, that feels like authentic marketing. Like for Sabrina to go out and market like, oh, I'm leasing this, like that feels so authentic. And so I feel like coming at it from both sides is really helpful. I think if just non-clients had done it, everyone would have missed the part about resale or lease, because that they would have mostly been doing it to like get the spot, right?
Yeah.
And I think the conversation of resale and lease is like maybe one of the most important as it relates to an NFT, because that's like what I think makes this technology like more exciting than anything we've had before. So I don't know if you like were to do that in your own business, would you think about it the same way?
I think it would depend on what it was for. So like if I was selling a spot in my course or something like that, then I assume it would probably be just new clients. But yeah, I mean, I think it definitely makes sense to open it up to everybody, because I do have my coaching spot, but this was for a second one. And for someone else, this was an opportunity to get coaching. For me, it was an investment opportunity. So I think that it is useful to your audience in so many different ways. And I just saw the value a little bit differently. For someone, they wanted the coaching, and that can still happen because I am leasing the spot.
Yes.
And so someone in your community still gets that experience. But for me, I wanted to win, one, auction psychology. Two, it felt like a really smart investment move for me.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about that part, because I think that that's a part that, you know, for some people, I think it was really easy to get their head around that. And for some people, I think they were just almost like, I don't get it, or like, this is just like a new shiny thing. So like, talk about like what you saw as like the value there for you.
Yeah. So in my brain, I was like, free coaching for life, because Lacey's rates are $12.50 a month plus the 10% fee. That's how she structures her rates. So if I'm charging, let's say 10K every 6 months or so for this, that more than covers Lacey's base rate. So that's how I saw it, was just free coaching for life. Like, like that is honestly how I saw it. I remember talking about it with my husband, and it just made so much sense. And also the other thing is, I was like, what if a weirdo buys it? And then Lacey's stuck with this weirdo forever. You know, like that's like a very weird thing. But like when you're someone's daughter, like these are the thoughts that go in your head.
Oh, you were protecting me.
Yeah. I was like, what if they're weird? You know, or like, I also thought like, what if some random, because it's such common in NFT space just to buy a bunch of stuff, even if you don't even care about what that is. So I remember talking to Lacey and being like, what if some random guy just buys it, or like some random investor just swoops in and gets it? Like, it really could have been anyone. We're talking about clients or non-clients in your community, but it could have been anybody. It really could have.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
I don't know for sure, but I think some of the people that favored it probably weren't in our community at all. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely stalked all of those accounts. So yeah, not all of them were. There was one account that I was like, this is a freak. So I saw them like, we're going to war here. Yeah.
This is a freak. Yeah, totally though. I think like, and that's something helpful to know and remind ourselves, is that like, for the most part, it's probably going to work out. But like, anytime you're doing something like this, you are taking a risk in that sense. So like, you know, you have to kind of be ready for that. But I like the free coaching for life. I think that's a good way to think about it.
Definitely. Yeah. And then you for sure can't get rid of me. Because if you're like, Sabrina, I'm canceling your contract, I was like, well, I actually have two.
Just to back up. Just good to have.
BRB, buying my mother's love. But that's honestly how I thought about it, was just like covering coaching rates. Like, it just made the most sense to me.
I think what's helpful about what you said too, and like Elisa asked this, so we'll definitely talk about what Sabrina's going to do with this spot. But I think that, you know, what's helpful about what you said, and you and I have privately talked about this a little bit, is that like, you know, for you, like, you're obviously going to lease it for a rate that feels like really valuable and all of those things, but it's not like you did it to be like, oh, I want to make like 30 times my investment or something, but it was just almost being like, oh, this just evens out. Like this totally makes sense.
Yeah. And one of the ideas that I also told Lacey is one time I would really like to raffle the spot. So everyone could buy a ticket, I don't know, $200 or something like that. And then it just goes to whoever wins it. So that I think is also a really cool way so that it doesn't always go to whoever's willing to pay the most.
Right.
I think for this first round, I will do that just to recoup some of my investment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, future plans, like that's something I brought to Lacey and she thought that was a cool idea. So we'll definitely run with that and find ways, you know, if there's like a Lit Up Life 10th year anniversary or like, you know, a big milestone or something that we want to play with. I think that's such a great way to make the spot more accessible to everybody.
Yeah. People like the raffle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a clever thing to think about. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good idea because I think that it's like, this is what makes it fun. Also, like for me, when I had said I wanted to do this, like such a big part for me was like, I feel like I'm a partner in all my clients' businesses, right? Which that feels cool, but it's so cool because it's almost like the first time I've had that. So it's been like really fun to think about like, oh, what are the fun things we could do together? Or what's the way that we could do this? Like, I haven't really had that in the same way. So that's been really cool.
Definitely. And I also just thought like, if we do that with the raffle, like one of the conditions of maybe leasing it is you have to give us updates on how it's going. So maybe like, let us know why you leased it halfway through, give us an update at the end, give us an update a bit how you do with literally, but not every single week, but just, you know, give us a few updates so that there's buy-in, not just to Lacey's coaching, but also buy-in to the NFT and the value of the golden ticket so that people are really aware of that. So when the next time it does roll around in 6 months, people aren't like, oh, what's this? But everyone knows that that golden ticket exists and it's out there and it's up for grabs.
Exactly. And like, what's cool now is like both Sabrina and I have the incentive to keep talking about NFTs or how this is going or things like that, because obviously this is going to continue to be a thing that's, you know, selling or leasing, not selling every 6 months or so. So I feel like that's what's really cool about this too, is like, I want to be really intentional that even though we're not offering another golden ticket, I don't want to stop this conversation, because the point of all of this was to bring this conversation to our space and to say, hey, this is where I think we're going. This is really important, that kind of thing. So I'm curious what your thought is on that. Like, obviously you're bought into this, but like, do you see this as the bigger picture of like where some of our space is going?
Definitely. So I think a lot of times when people talk about NFTs, they think art. Like they think little digital pictures, but if you think about
like a monkey or whatever it is, an ape.
Right. But if you think about an NFT as just a smart contract, which the way smart contracts work is a certain set of conditions have to be made in order for that to be released. So let's say you have to deliver X and then the Ethereum releases or whatever that contract is. I think it just provides a lot of protection to buyer and seller. It's on the blockchain, it's transparent. There's, you know, records of where everything is going. And I think just in general, we're moving more toward cryptocurrency, but I think NFTs, everyone is investing in them right now. All major corporations have an NFT strategy. Something I saw that was really interesting is, I think it was Damien Hirst, but there was this like photo series and there's 5 prints and they don't have the resources to print all of them right now. So what you do is you buy the NFT for that print, and within a year and a half, it'll ship, and then you exchange the NFT for the physical print. So it's also a smart contract. The smart contract is you buy this print, and when we give you the physical, you give it back to us. So there's, I think, many different ways to be using this.
There in Tampa, there was a realtor who sold a house as an NFT.
That's cool.
And I was like, that's cool as shit. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, there's just so many applications for this, but I think it's what you said. It's like, we have to think of it not as like a piece of art, although that was like how it was initially got, like the fucking actual golden ticket that Sab's got. That's like the NFT is not that cute. It's like, we copied the Willy Wonka one. Like, it's not like, you know, but that wasn't the point. It was like the value and the utility behind it. And I think that's where it's going to be really cool in our space, is to be thinking a lot more about like, what is the value and utility behind this stuff? Secondarily, which I think is so cool, and I'm so curious what you think about this. because we haven't really talked about this, but what I think is really cool is that it's starting to have an opportunity to be more like your audience is the one determining the value as opposed to you. So I'm like, this exchange we have going on is so fascinating because obviously like you would take my opinion and we very much respect each other's opinions, but like ultimately you're the one determining the value of this spot, not me.
Yeah.
Both in terms of your bid and in terms of your lease price. And I think that's super cool because we've really never had that in our space. Like it's always been like you set a price and it's kind of like people want to pay it or they don't, you know what I mean? But this is so different. Like, you know, I thought it was so cool when you won at 20,000 because I would have never set my own value for it at that, but you would. Do you know what I mean?
You know how much I had set aside?
Oh my God, don't you're gonna make me sweat if you tell me.
42,000.
Well, hopefully that makes everyone else that was thinking of bidding feel better because they're like, no, I was not going to 42.
And that was just what was liquid in on standby. There was like other stuff still in Coinbase, in Bitcoin. Like that was just what was like ready, deployed.
Ready to go.
Ready to go.
I love you. Thank you.
Always. But yeah, and I think the other thing, which I don't know when we'll reveal my strategy, but soon, but like what I can tell you is like other people also value this very highly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think for sure, like, yeah, I think if you had done this 3 years from now, when it's more common, it would have sold for $100,000.
Yeah. Totally. I think there was some way in which like, of course it was going to like, it wasn't low, but of course it was going to be low because it was the first time in our space. It was the first time most people have heard of it, like that kind of stuff. But like that's okay too. I think that like, you know, some people almost get like freaked out about that, but like, it's kind of like really worth it to do that. But yeah, talk about your strategy because you just mentioned that. And I feel like it's good for people to see how your crazy little brain works.
My crazy little brain. So first thing, I learned everything I could about auction psychology. One. Second, so if you just do some simple Googling, you will learn that on OpenSea, you can see how much money everybody has. So if you go to someone's account, there's a wallet number underneath that. So every day I was searching every single person who bid and favorited, looking up their wallet on Etherscan, and I saw how much money they had, which was helpful because that I could know how much to bid strategically. So for the first day or so, there was like a lot of little bids and it was all going because you have to increase your bid in a 5% increment.
So when it's lower, 5% is obviously
a lot, right? Yeah. So it was going from like 0.1 to 0.11 to 0.14 to 0.17. Like it was moving really slowly. So my strategy was I need to scare off the low bidders. So my tactic was to make you fear me, first of all. And also my name was hidden, so you didn't know it was me. So so like instill fear to scare people out was strategy one. So it went from like 0.25 and I bid 2. And then also the other thing is I was like, I need to be really aggressive. And every time someone bids, I just really up it. So like someone bid 2.1 and I bid 3. Because she was trying to do this like, 5% increase thing. And I was like, no, fear of God. So I just really went for it. And then also I remember like, I was like tipsy one night and it was at like 3 and I was like, fuck it, 4. So I just bid again. Like I outbid myself and Lacey texted me and she's like, you can't do that. And I was like, just did. But yeah, so anyway.
People literally asked me, they were like, how does that work? Did someone actually outbid themselves? And I was like, yes. I don't
you sure can.
I have zero explanation for that.
Yeah. And I remember like I would also bid while Lacey was sleeping because I knew that if she woke up and saw it, she'd be like happy and like cry and stuff, which she did. But yeah, so it was like make the pregnant lady happy. But yeah, so that was my strategy. And then my strategy was go ghost. Let people think they're going to win.
You did go ghost. Yeah.
Let them think they've got this. Because the thing is, if you bid in the last 10 minutes, it gets extended an extra 10 minutes. And that was midnight my time and I needed to go to bed. So my strategy was as close to 10 minutes as possible at like the 11-minute mark, put the highest possible bid that I could that beat everyone else. because I had their accounts up and I could see what people had. So I'm just telling you, people had literally like $19,000 set aside for this. There were 3 people who had between 15K and 19K set aside for this. So like I knew that like it was going to go for it. And so I thought one person had like 6.97, and I thought, well, if I do like 7.1, which technically would be the highest bid, they might be like, oh, I've got this, and try to move money really quickly. So I did 7.5. But yeah, I mean, I could have been crazy and bid 15, but Lacey would have punched me in the face. But yeah, so that's the thing, is like, you can see everybody's wallet. So like 30 minutes before the auction closed, that's when I was drinking coffee and like really like getting my game face on. And I just went through every single person's wallet. And also I could see every time someone moved money, because it's all on the blockchain, right? So I could see people were moving money. And yeah, so I'm telling you, like, I know it seems crazy because it went from like 4.6 to 7.5. People had 5.6, 5.9, 6.5. Like, people were ready to go. And I was like, I just need to, again, scare them.
And go to bed.
And go to bed. And that's how I won. Because then at that point, there was only 10 minutes left. And so someone would have had to have beaten my bid to extend it by an extra 10 minutes. But from what I saw, no one had that. Alessia says, where can you see people's wallets? So if you go to OpenSea and you click on the bidder's name or someone who's favorited, if you go to their profile, underneath, there's like a series of codes. So that is your wallet, and your wallet is public. It doesn't say who you are. Like, it doesn't say Sabrina Phillip or Alessia.
Unless you put your name. Yeah.
Unless you put your name on that, which is also why I didn't put my name. Just because I didn't want someone, because I know that, you know, we've been coaching for a long time, and I didn't know if someone was going to be like, I want to beat Sabrina just to beat Sabrina, or if someone was going to be like, she scares me, I'll stop. Like, I didn't know.
Well, now they're terrified of you because you just revealed how crazy you are.
Be scared. But yeah, so if you click on that number, if you go to etherscan.io, you can put that there, enter, and you will see exactly how much money someone has. Useful for next bid for sure, which is why I didn't know if I was going to tell y'all, because then now I'm going to have competition for the next NFT, but now everyone's on the same playing field. But yeah, because I was Googling NFT auction strategies. I was like, how do I win a bidding war? You know, how do I win a bidding war? How does auction psychology work? All of that stuff. Matra had a bunch of money ready to go, had my coffee, had my timer set. I had like a time. The other thing is I didn't want to move money until the last possible minute in case somebody,
if people were looking at your account.
Right. I didn't know if someone was looking at my account. So at the last, and I can move money pretty much instantly because I've just been in crypto longer and I've got a lot more of it. So I moved it right at the last possible minute and then just went for the dick punch, as we say.
So I think, like, all kidding aside, I think what's so helpful to see here though is that like you are so good at like knowing what you want and then like really taking action. Like, you talk all the time about mindset. We do so much mindset stuff together. We both believe in mindset, but ultimately, like, that's always combined with you getting strategic and backing yourself and taking a lot of action. Like, I doubt, I'm guessing, I'm not like making any judgment, but like, I doubt as many people spend as much time Googling NFT auction strategy as you did.
Yeah, I
like,
really went for it.
Knowing how to scan wallets or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, so I think it's just good to see that too, because I think sometimes in business, like, it can be easy to almost be like, oh, I shouldn't take too much action or whatever. And I think like, it's just good to see there that like, it's not like you took massive amounts, but you got really locked in and strategic on what you wanted.
For sure. And I think it also just made the process like really fun. Like, sometimes people are like, oh, like not in auction, but in something else in their business, they're like, I'm not motivated. And it's like, well, motivation follows movement sometimes.
Always.
So like, the more I got into it, the more motivated and the more locked in I was. But yeah, I think also having a strategy just made me feel so much more comfortable during the auction, because also I was nervous I was going to lose. Lacey has a ton of really successful clients. There's hundreds of people on Lacey's wait list. Like, I did not know for sure that I was going to win. I knew that I really wanted to win / knew I was going to win, but also there was for sure fear and doubt. And like, what if someone else gets it? And I remember the day before, the day of, I was like, oh no, I'm going to lose. And she was like, why? I was like, I'm going to lose. So those feelings for sure came up, but yeah, just, I think really having that plan of action, and just, even if you're scared, like executing the plan and following through with that, it made it so worth it.
Yes, exactly. Such a good takeaway for business in general. Lisa says exactly, totally. Michelle asked a question a little while back. She said, curious to know how you see the lease price impacting you and your coaching, Lacey. Oh, me. Curious how I see the lease price impacting my coaching. Does it feel different on your end because some of that money would be going to Sabrina? I'm thinking about how you cap the revenue share at 20K so that you wouldn't have to go live in Julia's closet. Yeah. It doesn't feel different to me because the money isn't going to me. So yeah. I feel like that almost feels separate. Like I'll be excited and I want to participate in whatever that is and stuff like that. But I feel like literally Sabrina is the owner of that spot. Like I will deliver the service, but yeah, she ultimately owns that spot. And I think I have a lot of good practice separating the two, because it's almost like with coaching and revenue share, you have to be really good at separating those two and not seeing it as so intertwined. So I feel like for me, that's kind of already easy in a sense, because I already operate a lot like that. But yeah, I really have I have like excitement toward it and whatever, but I have no like expectation around that. Like if she leases it for 20K, that's cool. If she leases it for $20, like either, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. You've never really been super motivated by money. You just want to make people happy and make them cry and talk about their feelings.
This is true.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. This was fun as fuck, but like, yes, that's not like the ultimate point, right? Yeah. So, okay. My 6-year-old is home today and learning all about NFTs and crypto. Oh my God, Jordan, that's so cool. Julia wants to know where for her kiddo, but that's freaking awesome. Okay. So, Alessia says, do you know who you'll sell it to for Sab? So maybe just talk about like what your next steps are, your plan.
Yep. So we'll go ahead and lease the spot straight away. So I know some people have already reached out expressing interest, but I wanted to wait until we had this conversation and could tell everybody before I started that process, just to make sure everyone had all the information. So anyone who is interested can send me a DM on Instagram. And I'll kind of get a bit of information from that person, just because I also want to make sure that they're a good fit for Lacey, because that is also something that, you know, how I said, I don't want it to go to a weirdo or something like that. I think likewise, just making sure that whoever this person is like committed to doing the work, aligns with Lacey's values, like understands that she's magical, but she's not a magic pill. Like you still have to do the work. So I think everyone gets to message me on Instagram. I'll collect some info and then I will lease it to someone for the 6 months. So yeah, that starts now, and I'll probably have a decision, I would say, by the end of the week on who that's going to.
And I'm going on maternity leave in April. So we'll, assuming it works out this way, I mean, obviously we'll still see how the process plays out, but you would start coaching with me pre-maternity leave, have that time, we'd get a plan together, and then you could finish it out post-maternity leave. So that's kind of a big advantage to it, being able to like get that in beforehand.
For sure.
I think what's also cool about it is like, it's like if you have a home, or no, let me say this different. It's like if I owned a property and Sabs was leasing it from me, and then she decided to sublease it, she would have every incentive to get a good person in there, because it impacts both of us. And so this is like what's cool about the leasing thing, I think, is that like there's obviously she and I have a great relationship, so she wants it to be someone that I'm like going to be excited to work with, but also because for her lease it makes sense too. So I think it's just cool to see all the ways that it creates like that win-win, and that like kind of like partnership or same page thing, where it's like that, like this is why this stuff is so cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we want to get people bought into the idea of the golden ticket, then for sure prioritizing it going to someone who is going to have a positive experience and is going to give updates and not just ghost us, so that we can then at the next leasing period let people know like, hey, this is what they said about their experience with the golden ticket. Because the way I think of it is it's a fast pass at Disney, right? Like that's ultimately what you're buying, is you're buying the Disney fast pass. Is that there are hundreds of, how many people are in your wait list now? Almost 500?
We're at
Past
about
that?
almost 500 or maybe a little
Yeah.
bit
Yeah. So there's like
below
500
above.
people
Yeah.
around that. And you get to skip the line essentially. So you really haven't opened too many coaching spots for 1 or 2 years now. Like I remember your live stream where you were like crying and you were like, oh no, I can't take any more private clients. And I was like, champagne problems.
That was so emotional for me, Sabrina.
It really messed
That
with Lacey
killed me.
hard time. That was like the worst because she kept taking clients. Like she didn't have space and she just kept taking them anyway. And then it was this moment of like, wait, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
So, and the problem is we never leave.
Yeah.
Right. I'm here 5.5 years later. You're gonna have to figure out if I am the oldest, but I think I am. Like I'm not going anywhere. I know so many of your other clients, they're not going anywhere. So it really is a fast pass.
Yep. And I think, so that I think I did my crying live stream in like May of 2020. So it's been a long ass time. And I think we've only opened 1 or 2 waitlist spots since then. So yeah, pretty crazy. So yes, fast pass, which by the way, if you ever go to Disney, is the most worth it money ever spent.
For sure.
Michelle said, we actually haven't talked about this, Michelle, but I'll ask, but will we get to find out who the leasing is and what the terms are? Totally okay if you decide to keep it private. I have just loved watching this process unfold.
So the terms of the agreement that I'm not sure about, just because I would need to make sure the other person feels comfortable with that as well.
For sure.
But who they are, that will be one of the conditions is like, you have to be okay with us saying who you are. Please let us know, like in Lucy's group, why you decided to take the golden ticket. Halfway through, give us an update. At the end, give us an update / testimonial so that the next time that comes around, there's like this culture built up around why you want the golden ticket. It's not just like why you want to work with Lacey, but why you want the fast pass. That's in my brain what I keep calling it. Like it's the fast pass. It's the skip the line. So yeah, we'll definitely have, I think, a lot of transparency and communication around that.
So good. It's cool now that people will have the opportunity to work with you for a short term, so people will get a chance to experience the leasing magic. Yes, totally. And that's another thing that we haven't talked about, but that will be interesting is like, if that same person wants to keep leasing, do we keep leasing it to that person? Do we always change it up? Like we haven't talked about that at all either.
Yeah, I think we'll have to see for sure.
Yeah.
I think the goal is to give as many people as possible the opportunity. But yeah, we'll definitely have to see about that.
For sure. So I feel like, one other piece that I really want to talk about is how we feel like people could use this in their business. Cause I think that obviously if you've watched it, you might either be like, I have no fucking idea how I'd ever use that in my business, or you might be like, I'm really excited to think about that. But I think like one thing that's important to me that I just want to say as like the foundation of it is like, figure out how it works with the model you already have. Don't try to build like a new business model around NFTs or something like that. Like for me, this worked because it's the exact model I already have in terms of like one-on-one coaching and right. If I would like, I've had so many random ass ideas about how you could use NFTs in coaching businesses, but I won't do probably 98% of them because they don't fit my business model. So that's just like an important first thing I would say is like, don't think about how can I use an NFT? Think about how do NFTs fit in my business model,
Yeah, definitely. And I think that the more you do these, there will be more buy-in and more understanding around it. I also think that every time people do this, if they do open a crypto wallet, they're just more likely to bid on the next one.
Yeah.
And so I do think it'll become more mainstream for sure.
And I think just like Sabrina said earlier, the first time you do it is always going to be the hardest in a sense. Yeah. Like that's why we gave ourselves at least a 30-day. Well, technically I gave myself a 30-day window, but it turned out to be about 15 because of the wallet stuff. But a 30-day window to get the audience on board and educate and stuff. And I think that's really important. I feel like in this space, we're so quick to like launch the next thing as fast as possible and get it out and get it sold. And like, you can't really roll like that with something like this because it's so new and people really need time to get bought in. Like, I cannot tell you how many emails I got over that period of time with questions and like troubleshooting. And I spent like the vast majority of my time in January, like answering those and figuring those out and just becoming more of an expert myself. So I feel like that's really helpful too. Like, yeah, it's just one of those things where you don't want to like go in with this expectation that it should be like a random launch that you just like throw up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, one day, I mean, maybe 5 years from now, that is how it will be. We have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if the timeline is 3 years or 5 years, but I think there will for sure be a time in half a decade where this is very, very commonplace.
For sure.
But yeah, I think anytime you're being innovative, which that's like Lacey's buzzword, like anytime you're being an innovator, like you need some time to kind of buy people into your crazy, essentially. Like you need to explain to them like why this is a worthwhile idea, why this is valuable. You have to get that buy-in.
Yep, 100%. And that's like really true in marketing in general. I mean, like even when you're hearing Sabs talk about the golden ticket and stuff, like she's already thinking about like, how are we getting buy-in for the next time? How are we getting people excited about that? Like that's just where our marketing brains have to go, you know?
Yeah. Definitely.
Lindsay said, I think I missed it, but was it said how much it will be leased for?
No, just if you're interested, send me a DM on Instagram. I've already had some DMs, but what I said at the beginning was I just kind of ignored all of them because I wanted to wait until we had announced this and given everyone an opportunity. And we'll, I think, send an email to Lacey's waitlist as well. And then we'll have a decision, hopefully by the end of the week.
And we'll probably you're going to have them fill out like a quick form, right? So they'll send you a DM, you're going to have them fill out a form, and then you're going to take it from there.
Yeah. Just to kind of like process through all that information.
Cool. Yeah. And I think what's good to hear is it's not like, and this is just like helpful to see, but it's like, we're all just figuring it out as we go. It's not like you have one set number in your head where you're like, it has to be this amount. You're like working through the process.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think, like a question mark that we'll figure it out this week, what that looks like. But yeah, because it's kind of hard because it's also like same thing. Like I know what I valued it at, but I have no idea what other people value it at. I have an idea of what I want to lease it for and what I think is a fair market price for it, but also there is no fair market price for something that's never been done before. So we'll find out.
Also, just in our industry in general, there's no fair market price.
For sure.
Lindsay said this was really interesting. I was also bitter and it was fun to hear someone else's strategy. So good.
Definitely. I was following your wallet closely, Lindsay. I creeped you on Instagram. I know all about your business, military wife, all the details. I know things. Coach for like military families. Yep. I'm aware.
Military marriages. Yes.
Military marriages. That's right.
So good. That's so funny. So the big takeaway is that Sabrina's a psycho. And the second big takeaway is that we'll let you know about the leasing this week.
But also I think I'm the right psycho to own the spot, you know, because I'm like body blocking you from other psychos. I'm the filter.
And I think, again, it's just like that. Like, this is what has always been true about you. And I can say this with 100% certainty after working with you for this long. But I think when people look at you and they're like, how does she grow like that? How does she always get what she wants like that? And like, this is just a micro of macro, how you operate.
Yeah. I think we actually did a podcast on this. If you are curious, and if you're like, Sabrina and Lacey are the best, we are the best. But go to Lacey's podcast because we did a podcast together. Lacey will find the link, or her team will find the link and drop it. But yeah, we did the podcast together and we specifically talked about like getting locked in and how I do that and what that looks like. But yeah, definitely just like getting locked in. And I think that's something anyone has to have for business. Like it's okay to be afraid, but you have to kind of be committed and decided. Yay. Yeah. Thank you, Jess. More episodes coming soon. If enough people harass me for them.
Jess, please tell her to record an episode, because this is like the bane of my existence right now, is getting her to record a fucking podcast episode.
Yeah, but I'm a Reels queen. I'm really busy being a Reels queen.
You are busy being a Reels queen. I will give that to you. What's your podcast, Sabs?
The Sabrina Phillip podcast. I'll drop it in the chat.
And I put the Do the Work one with Sabrina and I, but you you will hear like that background. But I think that's so important. It's
Yeah.
just like, see, everyone wants podcast episodes.
We'll see. I only see 2 people.
Everyone. But yes, I think that is actually a really good listen, that one that we did on the Do the Work series, because I feel like it's just helpful to see. I think like this is what goes on behind it. I think like it's just easy to be like, oh, easy for her, lucky for her, or whatever. And you're like actually like, yes, and
yeah, definitely.
Lots of mindset, strategy, and execution.
Always. Always. And that is how you win a bidding war.
It is. Okay, so last piece I want to say, in terms of using it for the model that you already have. The other thing, so we talked about use it for the model you already have. The other thing I want to talk about, Jess says her opinion holds more than one vote. So it's like multiple people anyway.
Perfect. Lacey says the same thing.
But it's to create win-wins. So I think like that, this is something that I feel like we almost forget in terms of like buyer psychology, but it's like the point of this was for it to be a win all around. And I spent a lot of time thinking about how it could be that. How could it be a win for our audience that would bid and not bid? How could it be a win for our clients that would bid and not bid? And just trying to like really flesh that out. I'm not saying you have to meet every single one of those every time, but I think especially when you're doing something new, it's almost easy to kind of like get tunnel vision and just be like, okay, I just want to sell this thing for this much. How do I get that?
Yeah.
And I never once thought about like, oh, I want to sell it for this much. How do I get that? I thought about like, how does everyone win here? And I think that that's why it worked out. That's why clients bid, non-clients bid. We had low bids, we had high bid, like all of the things because of that. So that's just something I would take into account. What's your business model, number one? And then 2 is like, how do you create a win-win for all of it? And then the other piece that we talked about is like, how do you give yourself a ton of time to like build up to it? Yep.
Definitely.
Any other thoughts there?
I mean, I think that the win for everyone was this was just such a cool learning experiment for all of us. Like, I think we all learned a ton on this live stream. I think the entire month that you spent promoting the NFT and really talking about it and educating everyone on the process, everyone who set up a crypto wallet, hold your Ethereum for 10 years, not financial advice, but also see what happens. Like there's so much that
told me because they bought in that dip. Some people have been like, I already made
money now.
$1,000 and like, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah. I get Coinbase. I can check Coinbase right now and tell you what Ethereum is.
I think it's like low again right now, but like, again, it just moves.
30 something hundred. Ethereum's currently 2660. So it has dipped a little bit, but also just a few days ago, it was like 3,300.
And that's what's kind of like, cool about this whole thing is just learning that like ability to kind of like hold and wait it out too. But yeah.
So it was at 3,300 on February 10th. So if you had bought at, 2,200 and you had sold it at 3,200, you would have like had a 50% return on investment.
In like a shorter period of time, which is what's crazy.
Yeah, like just a few days.
Totally. So good. I love you. Thank you for being here.
Love you.
I'm so excited that you won. I'm so excited to do this together. And I just appreciate you like seeing the value always.
Everyone who tells Lacey that I'm her favorite client will get like bonus points in the bid in the auction.
Now she's cheating. But also I also appreciate you telling us your strategy, because I think it was just really helpful for people to hear that. I think it would have been easy to be like, oh, I was just interested and I bid, and like people knowing it was so much more than that, I think is so helpful. So thank you for being honest about that. I really appreciate that.
Definitely. Yeah. But I think that you got to have one.
Amen.
And business
okay. So everyone message Sabs on Instagram. You're still Sabrina Phillip on Instagram.
Yes. At Sabrina M. Phillip. I'll drop my handle into the chat.
Message Sabs on Instagram if you're interested in filling out the short form to get information about the lease. Probably within the next week or so, we'll move forward on that. We'll start coaching. We'll have a break from maternity leave, and then you will have that spot guaranteed when you come back. So
yes,
thank you. We love you all. Thank you for being here. I love you. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.